The religion of Egypt. The religion of Egypt is well, there's a philosophy behind the religion of Egypt, which isn't really one particular set of factors. In other words, it changed a lot over the millennia. So what I hope to impart in this video is that the good thing about the religion of Egypt and the philosophy, the religious philosophy of Egypt, is it can never be lost. If you think that, oh yeah, they had this religion in Egypt and it was thousands of years ago and I've never read any of it, so I wouldn't know it. Actually, you can know it, and it's something that's very easy to find, and it's something that anybody can know about, and it's the reason why it can't be lost ever. It doesn't have to be written down on a hieroglyph or in a book or anything like that, is because it happens every day in the sky, and you can just go outside and look at it, and if you watch it day in and day out, you'll see what it is, and it's the same thing over and over again. Now, that might not be every single, religious story and religious ideology that occurred in Egypt, because there's a lot of stars and there's a lot of solar phenomena that occurs during different times of the year. So you may not know every story and every this and every that, and a lot of it you don't need to know. But the basic phenomena which occurs in the sky, which is the foundation of the Egyptian religion, and all of the gods of Egypt come from this. The basic foundation of it, it can all be seen by you at any time of the day, as long as there's no clouds covering the sky, day or night. You can just look up in the sky and you can see for yourself the founding principles of the religion of Egypt. And what it mainly centers around is the moon. Not only the moon, but the moon is a central object of Egyptian religion. So, let me explain something to you about the gods of Egypt. The gods of Egypt represent natural phenomena or philosophical phenomena. So they symbolize things such as the sun, the moon, fertility, agriculture, and all of the various factors of life. Any factor of life could have a god associated with it. Now you could say, well, those aren't real gods. Okay, depends on how you define the word god. In the ancient world, the gods were a science of nature. So the gods were symbols of nature or philosophical phenomena. So it could be a symbol of something that's found in nature, like the moon, or like agricultural ideas, or the fact of fertility and growing like rain, a river, the earth, the stars, the clouds, like anything that's real, anything that is a natural phenomena could be symbolized as a god. God meaning it's a power, or something that has a power in the universe, or is a ruler over other things in the universe. It's undeniable that the sun is a ruler over the natural world. It rules over your plants, which you're going to harvest and eat. It rules over the plants which the animals eat. It brings warmth and light to the world. So it is, in that sense, a ruler of those things, right? It is a factor which creates life in a limited capacity. And other things could be considered a power, or that's really what it means. Like, for instance, the agriculture. It's like something that the ancient world was involved in. So there'd be a god of agriculture, and he would symbolize the various parts of agriculture. Or there would be a god of rain, it would symbolize rain, or the god. In other words, it's just a symbol of something found in nature. Now, there's also a god would be like a philosophical idea. All of these are based, all of the gods of the ancient world are ideas. They are ideas. All of them. Every god of the ancient world was an idea about this or an idea about that, and it was called a god. So the gods were ideas that were originating from man about the universe. So it was the thing in the universe, and it was symbolized as a god or a power. So what you have to understand is that this was a science. It was a if you were in ancient Egypt and you came to learn about the gods, you were learning about the makeup of like how the universe works, right? There's these different forces in the universe, and they're identified as gods. And if you learn all this stuff, you know the science of living. And then it was the whole government was organized around maintaining this religious order, because this religious order was the science of everything that had to do with perpetuating life. So it was a science of perpetuating life, symbolized as gods, and by maintaining all of this, that is what the royal families of Egypt were basically mandated to do, is they were mandated to use all of this wealth and power generated by Egyptian civilization to maintain this religion, to maintain the science of the gods. And it was a natural science. They represented natural phenomena and philosophical phenomena. So let me explain how simple it is to know all this without having to even see a hieroglyphic. You don't need a hieroglyphic to understand any of this. The central object of this religion is the moon. That is a central object of the religion of Egypt. The moon is the central object. That doesn't mean it's the only object. It's the central one. It's the object in which all these different forces are playing out on. They're all playing out on the moon. And the way they do that is through the phases of the moon. The moon goes from a new moon, and then it goes to a quarter moon, and then it goes to a full moon, and then it goes back to a quarter moon, and it goes back to the end of the cycle, which is the absence of light of the moon. In which case you have what's called another new moon, which begins the cycle anew. And that cycle plays out month after month after month, year after year after year, and it's the same cycle over and over and over and over again. So what is happening there is you have the sunlight, correct? The sunlight is lighting up the moon on one end, and it goes through this full phase of cycles until it reaches full light, and then it dies. So it's a cycle of birth and life, and then decay and death, and it plays out over and over and over and over again. So the moon is playing that out. And so what you have on the moon in the stories of the Osirian cycle and other stories, it doesn't have to be the story of Osiris. It can be the story of any of the different gods. You don't have to know all the names of all the different gods because they changed over time. What didn't change what is and was and is the moon and the sun and the stars. Sometimes they change position a little bit depending on the position of the Milky Way galaxy and the various constellations and so forth. But what I'm saying is the moon is going to play out this drama over and over and over and over again. And that is the central object of Egyptian religion. And the whole science of Egyptian gods and philosophy are centered around the moon. So what happens on the moon is that you have a struggle between light and darkness. You have a struggle between light and dark being carried out on the moon. So you go from, in the evening time, you obviously have darkness, and you have the moon is dark. And then you have a little tiny sliver appear in the west, when the sun is going down in the west, on the new moon, you'll have a little sliver appear. And this is very important, as this signifies the beginning of the new month. So we're starting a new month cycle, right? You have a little tiny sliver of light on the moon as the sun sets. So then, each day, you get a little more light and a little more light and a little more light. So in the Egyptian religion, this would symbolize the struggle between light and dark, and that would be the struggle between Horus would symbolize the light, and Set would symbolize the dark, right? Set was the god of darkness, and Horus is the god of light. And there was other gods of light and other gods of darkness, and they had Osiris was the god of the moon, and there were different gods of the moon, and there's a lot of different gods. But if you just understand the moon cycle itself, this is the central object. This is where all the forces of light and dark are playing out, day after day, month after month. They're all playing out on the moon. So the moon goes through its cycle, it achieves full light, and it's complete. It is achieved its objective, which is full light. Then Set comes back into power, and the moon goes back into darkness. Now this goes on endlessly, right? There's no end to this struggle. There's no end to the struggle between light and dark being carried out and being played out on the moon. So then there's this other god, which is known as Thoth. And Thoth is this god of the balance between good and evil. And so this is a philosophical concept. So whereas some of the gods represent physical objects, this god, for instance, Thoth, represents a philosophical idea, not an actual natural object, but a philosophical idea originating out of this interplay between darkness and light. And that would be Thoth as one of the gods of Egypt, which was like the referee who managed the eternal struggle between light and dark. So now you have this pantheon of gods in Egypt, and essentially what that is it's all of this natural and philosophical phenomena. And so this is imparted generation after generation after generation. Sometimes the names change and the stories change, but the basic natural phenomena and the basic philosophical phenomena do not change. And so that's what you have in the religion of ancient Egypt. The other thing you have in the religion of ancient Egypt is a creator god in Ptah who creates the world through thought. This is very unique to that particular religion, and also appears in Genesis as the God of the Israelites, because it's quite different than, for instance, the religion of the creation story of Samaria, which is a founding document of the Bible. It is the original Bible, is the Sumerian. The Sumerian is the original. But the difference is with the Sumerian is that the creation story is one very similar to evolution. Things just kind of come into existence through these different forces. Whereas, in other words, it doesn't explain how these forces came into existence. Much like the Big Bang Theory, which supposes that the universe was there and something exploded. Well, how did it get there? Why is it there? Right? Same thing with the Sumerian creation story. You had elements that were already in existence, and then those are used to explain the creation of the world. Well, they were already there, so that's the question. So in the Egyptian religion, you start with a creator god, and that creator god in Ptah, and of course you had various creator gods. You had Atum was a creator god. It was a self-created. That's the idea of the self-created god, was Atum, right? But in another creator god version, you have Ptah, and Ptah thinks the world into existence. And this is, in fact, how the world comes into existence. The universe itself is, without question, a is thought materializing into existence. It's just it comes about by it's manifesting from thought. It's being thought into existence. It's a persistent thought. Just like when you think of someone or you think of some place, an image appears of that person or place. The universe comes into existence in the very same manner. That is the manner by which the universe comes into existence. It materializes from thought, just like your mind comes into existence from thought. The universe comes into existence from thought in the very same manner. It comes into existence for all of us in this exact same manner through thought. This is very unique to Egyptian religion and was carried over into the story of the Bible. Because, like I said, in the Sumerian version, you do not have the gods thinking the world into existence. The elements of the gods already existed. It was the intermingling of water, which represented really the Mesopotamian rivers flowing into the sea, and that was the model by which they created they manifested their creation story, or they created their creation story. They invented their creation story. Whereas the story in Egypt with Ta is the idea that the universe is the mind, that it's the mind of God, that it comes into existence, it is thought into existence. And it's not like it takes some effort to think something into one's mind. When you think of an apple, or you think of a car, or you think of a loved one, it appears. This is the same way that the universe comes into existence for all of us, collectively, as the mind of God. So this is unique to the Egyptian religion. But as far as all of the various gods and all the various elements, well, all of the gods of Egypt are the elements that you see in nature. This was common with all of these other religions. When they talk about how the gods of the ancient world were all false gods, not exactly, because they were representations of natural phenomena. So these were real things in nature. And the people who first were to deny these things, now of course the stories and the mythology and the symbol is not the thing. It's true that the gods, let's say, the sun is not a god, we know that. The moon is not a god. It's an object. It's a natural object. It's actually the mind. It's actually the mind materialized as an object. So yeah, it's not God itself, but these things were considered, or in this science that had come out of Egypt, they were defined as gods, and in other words, they were rulers over the universe. They were the factors ruling the universe, just as natural law is a factor ruling over the universe, right? And as a mortal human body, they are ruling over your body. They may not rule over you as a spirit, because only the true Creator, eternal God, is sovereign and is not subject to death. However, these things do rule over the biological world, and to that degree, they were like the gods of the biological world. They were not the gods of the human spirit. The sun isn't a ruler over the human spirit, but it is a ruler over the material, biological, ecological world. So to that degree, you could say that the gods are and were real. To that degree. So if you want to know what the religion of the Egyptians was and what it is, all you have to do is go outside and look at the moon and watch the phases of the moon go from new moon to full moon and back again, over and over and over and over again. And that struggle is the struggle between light and dark. It's an unending, eternal struggle, which is a metaphor for your own life, right? Because you you then can carry out as somebody struggling against forces of darkness. This is your life. You're going to face these contests, right? And then this is really like a metaphor or an allegory for one's own life. And that's really what attracted people to these stories. And basically that's what they did, is they turned these natural occurrences that were occurring and are going to occur for the foreseeable future in the heavens. The sun cycles, the moon, the moon cycles, the constellation cycles. These things are to some degree eternal, unending. And so these are stories which are carried from generation to generation without really changing. And these stories do appear in a new form in the Bible, in a very new form, because they're no longer stories about gods. They've been transformed into stories about men, and with the Creator God being the God of the Israelites. And that was the change that occurred between the old religions, which were stories about gods, and the genealogies of the gods, whether it was in Egypt or the Greek gods or the Sumerian or the Babylonian gods, and they were transformed by the Israelite story, who, having looked at the human soul, and that there's a God of the human soul. That was the basic idea, I believe. Or that there was a creator God. I think that's probably what it was. I think the human soul part came later when they were connected more with the Greeks. But at some point they decided to abandon all other gods for the creator God alone. But they weren't the inventors of the creator God. The creator God was a creator God just as they had in Egypt and other religions. They had a creator God. But this version was definitely new and influenced the world with this new idea about God. And the creator God is an idea, right? There is a creator of the universe, which is the true God, but that's within you, and it's within everyone. That is the true God. The idea that there's a God elsewhere that you can't know about, and that's some foreign thing to you that created everything for you, and then you're just like living in it as this object of this God's, imagination. That's not true. No, there is a true creator, and it's within you, and it's at the center of your own eternal soul, and it essentially is you as an eternal being, and all the rest of you out there, not just me, but you. That there is a true creator God there. That is the real, true, ultimate creator God. It's not somewhere else. It's contactable from within, and as Christ says, in Luke, the kingdom of God is within you, and that's what that means, because it's within you. It's not outside. Outside is the mind. The further you go out into the universe, you don't find God. You find endless space, which is the mind. That is the mind. That is the mind. Within, if you follow your conscience, which means to know with, that will lead you to divine knowledge, divine wisdom, all the answers to the universe, the truth of, right and wrong. It's all there. It's all there. And that's where you are. And so when you're looking out, you're trying to find the God out there. You're looking in the wrong direction. You should be looking not inward literally, but inward metaphorically, because you can't look into a nothingness. The universe is a somethingness, but the creator of the universe is in essence the opposite of the mind. It's a thinking nothingness. So there's not like you can literally look inward. It's not a literal thing. It's if you understand it, you understand it, and if you don't understand it, then you don't understand it. But you can only explain things using terms with regard to this universe, so that limits you. So I have to use terms like inward or within or those types of things. But probably if you're smart, you understand exactly what I mean. So there you go. There's if you want to know about Egypt and the Egyptian religion and what it's all about, all you have to do is look at the sky, look at the moon. Yeah, there's stories about other stars like Sirius and all these other things, but essentially all of it plays out on the moon, and the moon is the central object which tells the story.